We all know that companies want to make profits. In order to do that, they need to research the consumers to discover their problems, their needs, wants, and demands, and to come up with a product or a service that would satisfy that need and would satisfy that problem. In marketing terms, this is called creating value for customers, and when the company takes the money for their product, this is called capturing value from customers in return. The macroenvironment consists of larger societal forces that affect the entire microenvironment. The 6 forces making up the company's macroenvironment are demographic, economic, natural, technological, political and social, and the cultural forces. These forces shape opportunities and pose threats to the company. Before starting this video, we need to understand one thing that is very important. Every company on this planet acts, behaves, and works in what we call an environment. This environment is represented by forces and actors that influence the ability of the company to interact with the consumers, so to establish relationships with them with what we call the targeted customer. And marketing is all about that. Marketing is all about identifying the need, the want, the demand, the problem of the consumer to come up with a product or a service that would solve that need or that would solve that problem of the consumer. And when the consumer buys that product that you offer as a company, he becomes a customer. So that is the point when the company makes profit. In marketing, we call that capturing value back. So the value is the profit from the customers. Well, when they act in actors and factors that influence the company, that is called the environment. And the environment is of 2 types. There is the microenvironment and there is the macroenvironment. So in this video, we talk about the macro environment, and I've created a separated video for the microenvironment that you can watch, well, right here, I believe, or check it in the links down in the description. If you would like to see one video that has both the micro and the macro environments together, because they compose together, they represent the marketing environment, check the link right here or in the links down in the description. The company can be influenced by actors operating in a larger macro environment of forces that shape opportunities and pose threats to the company. The macroenvironment consists of broader forces that affect the actors in the microenvironment. Because marketing is a very visual field, we already have a model with all the forces that represent the macroenvironment. The demographic environment is the first force of the macroenvironment that we analyze. Before looking in depth at it, let's see its definition. Demography is the study of human populations in terms of size, density, location, age, gender, race, occupation, and other statistics. The population of the world is growing at an explosive rate. Well, the more citizens, the bigger the population, the bigger the diversity of the population, and this brings both opportunities and threats for any company. The marketeers study the demographic trends in development of the markets. Well, they analyze the changes in age, family structure, educational characteristics, and population diversity. When changes in the demographics occur, it means that there are also changes in markets that happen, therefore the interest of the marketeers. The demographic environment is important for the marketeers because it involves people, and people make up the markets to which the companies want to sell. The most important demographic trends in the United States are the changing age structure of the population, the changing structure of the family, graphic shifts in population, and increasing identity. The structure of the video is that we will look independently at each trend in the demographic environment, and only after we did that we will move on at the next force of the macro environment. It is estimated that by 2030 the population of the United States may reach 360 million people. The most important trend in the United States at the moment is the changing age structure of the population. Because of the falling birth rates and longer life expectancies, the US population is getting older. In 1980, the median age was 23. By 2050, it is estimated to be 38. The aging of the population will have a significant impact of markets and those who service them. Because it is so big in the population of the United States, we can identify 4 different groups or 4 different types of population, and marketeers name them after that: the baby boomers, Generation X, the millennials, and Generation Z. The baby boomers. There are 78 million baby boomers born between 1946 and 1964 during the years following World War II and lasting until 1964. In 2023, they are between 59 and 77 years old. The youngest boomers are now in their 50s, and the oldest are now in their late 60s. Today's baby boomers are about 35% of the population, but control about 70% of nation's disposable income. The Generation X. There are 49 million people that were born between 1965 and 1976. In 2023, they are between 47 and 57 years old. They lie in the shadow of the boomers, and they are an overlooked consumer group. They seek quality over quantity and price experiences. They research products before purchasing and are less receptive to marketing pitches. They also display the lifestyles, the culture and the values of the baby boomers, and many of them are homeowners with growing families, being a prime segment for home and hearth marketeers. The Generation Y, known as the Millennials. There are 83 million millennials, baby boomers born between 1977 and 2000. In 2023, they are between 23 and 46 years old. They are the most financially strapped generation, most of them having near empty pockets. Because of their huge number, they make up a huge and attractive market now and in the future as well. Because they grew up embracing technology, they engage with brands in a new way, shaping their own brand experiences. The Generation Z are the kids 8 to 12 years old, and they count for about 20 million people born after 2000. Some analysts include people born after 1995 as well, and they make up the kids, tweens and teens markets. In 2023, they are 20 to 28 years old. They spend approximately $43 billion annually of their own money and influence another $200 billion of their parents' spending. Gen Zers blend the online and offline world seamlessly as they socialize and shop. Out of those who shop online, more than half prefer shopping online for electronics, books, music, beauty products and accessories. You may wonder why it is important for you or for the marketeers to know this kind of information. Well, for example, one of the most important questions that the marketeers are asking right now is if they have to make products and services specifically shaped and designed for each age category. Because as you know, every generation has its needs, and now the marketeers, what they actually did is to split these age categories into smaller groups and more age-specific segments, because they want to have a precise targeting of the customers. And they finally realized that age is just a number and it's not necessarily that important for marketing as their lifestyle, life stage, and common values. The second trend we look at in the population of the United States in the demographic environment are the changes, the constant changes in the structure of the American family. I find it important to mention that in this video we only talk raw data, so we only talk what marketeers think about, what they analyze, and it's not about any opinions, values and whatsoever. This is just data analyzed by marketeers. The traditional American household is represented by the image of a husband, wife, children and sometimes grandparents. The historical 2 children, 2 cars family has lately been losing its luster. In the United States, married couples with children represent only 19% of the nation's 122 million household, which is less than half that of the 1970. Married couples without children represent 28%. Single parents are another 18%, and non-family households or living singles adults represent 34%. Because we also have to consider the new families that never consider having children, or the families that consider late marriage and maybe the idea of having children. Also, the number of same-sex couples raising children has increased 75% since the year 2000. The number of working women has also increased from under 40% in 1950 to 58% today. In 40% of the American households, the women are the primary breadwinners. Third important trend that we look at are the geographic shifts of the population. 12% of US residents move each year and 35% move every 5 years. People migrate between and within countries. The West and South, for example, have grown, whereas the Midwest and Northeast states have lost population. Well, you may also wonder why it is important for marketeers and why should people know where everybody moves. Well, I will give you an example. In the Midwest, for example, there are other temperatures, so people will buy more winter clothing and than people in the southeast, for example, right? So as a company, you want to know this kind of fluctuations because you want to better advertise and to know what kind of products you need to advertise and sell in every geographic area. In fact, there is a trend of people moving to what is called micropolitan areas, so smaller cities located beyond metropolitan areas, so examples such as Montana, Michigan, or Mississippi. Smaller micros offer many of the advantages of metro areas such as jobs, restaurants, diversion and community organizations, but without the population crush, the traffic jams, the high crime rates, and highly property taxes. More than 10% of the US population resides now in a micropolitan area. You can also imagine that changing the location where people live has also influenced the changes in locations where people work, because now we have such a called trend SOHO, so that is small office, home office, and it is especially exploded after the pandemic, as you can imagine. Well, as a marketeer, you can imagine the explosion in sales for home office products, from furniture to electronics, computers, and all that. Everything that goes into a home office just exploded in 3 years. And one last important trend in the population of the United States is the increased diversity. And when I say diversity, I mean all kinds of diversity. United States population is about 64% white, Hispanics are about 17%, and African Americans are just over 13%. Also, US Asian American population counts for about 5%. And you need to understand that we talk about wider diversity, so not just about race or culture, we also talk about sexual orientation, and because companies take the LGBTQ community into account, also the community of the disabled people, and let's see why. Also, you may have seen the news, you know, so many companies supporting LGBTQ+. Think about it now, is it real support for the values of these people, or is there an interest knowing that the LGBTQ has a buying power of more than $830 billion annually? Do companies really support Paralympic athletes because they are empathetic with these people, or do they know that their buying power is between $200 and $500 billion a year? To make it clear, I'm not saying that companies do not align with these values, that they do not support these values. I'm just asking, is it truly genuine as a marketeer, as a company, to align with these values because you feel like it, or is it also something subjectively when you know that there are hundreds of millions, hundreds of billion dollars in these markets that your company can take a share of? I'm just asking. Alright, so far we know that the macro environment is composed of 6 forces, and we talked about the first one, the demographic environment. And so far we talked about the first force, the demographic environment. Regarding this environment, we looked at the most important trends that take place in the environment, and they are important to be known as marketeers have them under the magnifying glass. I know that this video may get quite long because each trend of each market force is important, and this is why I've split these videos. I've created smaller videos about every force of the macro environment. If you'd like to see them separately, you can watch it here or check every video in the link down below in the description. As a summary, demography is the study of the characteristics of human population. Today's demographic environments show a change in age structure, shifting family profiles, geographic population shifts, a better educated and more white-collar population, and increasing diversity. The economic environment is the second force of the macro environment of marketing that we analyze. In order to understand it better, let's see the definition of it. The economic environment consists of factors that affect buying power and patterns. The economic environment is characterized by more frugal consumers who are seeking greater value, the combination of good quality and service at a fair price. So what this actually means is that marketeers also pay attention to how people spend and how they earn their money. And this is why, because they want to know what you can afford, how much you earn, and how much you actually spend from what you earn, because you know they can target their products better for your budget. You already know that income and wealth comes in stages, so the marketeers identified them on 3 levels. Some countries have industrial economies which constitute rich markets for many different kinds of goods. In between, there are developing economies that can offer outstanding marketing opportunities for the right kinds of products. And in the lower extreme, there are the subsistence economies, where people consume most of their own agricultural industrial output and offer few market opportunities. Unfortunately, we have to realize that marketing is not necessarily about being empathetic with the people and supporting them and supporting their values. Marketing is a department within a company, and the company wants to make profits. So in order to do that, the company needs to sell, and they need to know what people can afford and what people used to buy, because they want, that is true, they want to solve the need of the customers, they want to solve the problem you have, but solve it with their product. And obviously you can imagine that the more money people have, the better the opportunities and possibilities. Well, if you go in a rural area where people eat what they grow in their own gardens, obviously it won't be very profitable to open a flea market right there, right? So it is also considering that is taken into account by entrepreneurs because they want to be profitable and not open any business anywhere without the need of it. In the same time, let me give you an example. David Neilman, who is the founder and former CEO of JetBlue Airways, is a native Brazilian. You may know or not, but Brazil is not really a top country for searching the rich. However, in the past decades, its economy grew and Brazil has a middle class of more than 100 million people. So what this guy did is to open an airways company to offer cheap flights named Azul Brazilian Airways. You may think that this idea is crazy, and I think that indeed it is, because offering flights at a cheap cost, he already had the model from JetBlue, right? And what he did is to allow people with low credit or no credit at all to buy the tickets, and one more thing, they could buy it in installments. Imagine that in Brazil, for that segment of area, it took 34 hours to go by bus from location A to location B, and with his airline service, you could get to your destination in 2 hours. And this is how this company got to be the third airway company in Brazil. And it's not always about the price to make a profit, it's also about how many services, the quantity of the products you sell to make the profit. So when we talk about the economic environment, we also look at two trends: the changes in consumer spending and the income distribution. The first trend looks at how people spend their money. Until 2008, the Great Recession, Americans used to spend their money freely because those economic times were fueled by income growth, a boom in the stock market, and significant increase in housing values. After 2009, people are buying less and looking for greater value in the things they buy. So they went back to adopting a back-to-basic sensibility in their spending patterns. So what marketeers right now have to do is to find the perfect combination of a fair price for a fair, good quality product. Paying attention to income distribution, over the last decades, rich have grown richer and the middle class has shrunk. The poor remained poor. The top 5% of Americans earners get over 22% of the country's gross income, and the top 20% earners capture 51% of all the income, and the top bottom 40% get just 11.5%. And don't think it's dramatical because, well, you know that many companies target the affluent, right? Selling the premium, the expensive products. But many companies target the middle class and the lower class income of population, because think about it, the dollar stores markets are now the biggest and the fastest growing trend in the United States. Ford, for example, is a company that tailors their marketing offers across a range of markets, from the affluent to the less affluent. They sell Ford Fiesta for $14,000, and they also have the Lincoln Navigator SUV that costs $56,000. Because the changes in income, the buying power, and also in the cost of living is changing and they affect the markets, marketeers need to look at this data and analyze it constantly, and they do that to what is called economic forecasting. The natural environment is the third force of the macro environment we analyze. In order to understand it better, let's see the definition of it. The natural environments involve the physical environment and the natural resources that are needed as inputs by marketeers or that are affected by marketing activities. The natural environment shows three major trends: shortages of certain raw materials, higher pollution levels, and more government intervention in natural resources management. Environmental concerns create marketing opportunities for alert companies. And now it would be a legit question, Why do marketeers care about the environment and more actually the natural environment, and why they do think about it as a force that influences the company? Well, think about it. To produce their products or their service, they need raw materials, and that is in depletion. Another thing is that severe weather condition creates new demands. Also, think about the natural disasters and how many products you can sell in those cases. Winter clothing, snow tires, all companies create marketing strategies depending on the weather and on the nature. As mentioned, there are three important trends in the natural environment we look at. Although water and air may seem infinite resources, air pollution is a problem in many world's largest cities, as well as the water shortages. The renewable resources such as the forests and food also have to be used wisely. Also, non-renewable resources such as oil, coal, and various minerals represent a serious issue. The second environmental trend is the increased pollution. The industry will almost always damage the quality of the natural environment. Just consider and think about the disposals of chemicals and nuclear waste. The mercury in the oceans is at a dangerous level. The quantity of chemical pollutants in the soil and food supply and the littering of the environment are serious issues to be taken care of. And finally, the last trend we look at in the natural environment is the increased government intervention in natural resources management. The governments of different countries vary in their concern and efforts to promote a clean environment. For example, the German government vigorously pursues environmental quality. In poorer nations, governments do little about pollution. Sometimes even richer nations lack the funds and, more importantly than funds, the political accord and interest to mount a worldwide environmental effort. Naturally, every company that presents interest and that presents their support and help for the nature and for the natural environment is seen as a good citizen, and this is what these companies want as well. But in the same time, they also track these natural trends and the trends in the nature to know how and where they can sell, and also they need to know how much they need to prepare for the future, how many resources are there available for the raw materials they need for production. Environmental sustainability means meeting present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. It represents developing strategies and practices that create a world economy that the planet can support indefinitely. Many companies are nowadays responding to this need of consumer demands with more environmentally friendly products. And they understood that what is good for the customer is also good for the business. Therefore, more and more companies make environmental sustainability a part of their core mission. The technological environment is the fourth force of the macro environment we look at and analyze, and in order to understand it better, let's see the definition of it. The technological environment is perhaps the most dramatic force now shaping our environment. The technological environment represents forces that create new technologies, creating new products and new market opportunities. We have to admit that nowadays technology created wonders, from robots performing surgeries, from antibiotics, up to electronics, smartphones and the internet itself. New technologies create new opportunities. Just a few years ago, this was just a dream. It was not ever possible to pay for your groceries with your phone or with your bracelet, but the marketeers understood that there is a need for this kind of products, and because of the advancements and the development of the technology, such a product was possible to be created. The technological environment creates both opportunities and challenges. Companies that fail to keep up with the technological change will miss out on a new product and marketing opportunity. Although technologies create new markets and new opportunities for companies to make profits, we always need to remember that the technology will replace an older technology. For example, digital photography replaced the film business. The digital downloads and streaming are hurting the CD and DVD business. And always, every time a company ignores the new technology and population will ignore the company. They will stay in the past. One important trend in the technological environment is the concern about the safety, because the more complex products and technologies become, well, the public needs to know that using these products is safe. And this is why nowadays we have government agencies that are concerned about the safety of the data of the consumer and also about the safety of the consumer itself. They are banning unsafe products, and there are many agencies such as the CPSC, Consumer Product Safety Commission, that establish standards for consumer products and penalizes companies that fail to meet them. And this is why marketeers need to be aware of these regulations. They need to conform with these regulations and follow the rules that this kind of committees establish. The political and social environment is the fifth force of the macro environments that we look at. Before looking at it in depth, let's see the definition of it to understand it better. The political environment consists of laws, government agencies, and pressure groups that influence or limit marketing actions of the various organizations in a society. The political environment has undergone changes that affect marketing worldwide. Increasing legislation regulating business, strong government agency enforcement, and greater emphasis on ethics and socially responsible actions. The developments in the political environment are very important for the marketing decisions, and we need to look at two major trends that happen in this environment, and they are: the political aspect involves the legislation regulating businesses, while the social aspects involves the increased emphasis on the ethics and socially responsible actions. Looking at the legislation regulating businesses, it is important to know that many companies, they will always claim that they want free markets and that they will also want and support the government taking legislation and regulations to their business, because it is important to protect competition, right? Well, in reality, we all know that companies would smash other companies and make all competition disappear, but this is actually the goal of these regulations. It is to encourage competition and to ensure a fair market for both companies and customers. Through public policy, the governments try to set laws and regulations that limit businesses for the good of society as a whole. Almost every marketing activity is subject to a wide range of laws and regulations. There are major legislation in the United States that affect marketing. Many laws cover issues such as competition, fair trade practices, environmental protection, product safety, truth in advertising, consumer privacy, packaging and labeling, pricing, and other important areas. And there are three main important reasons why the government established this kind of regulations. The reasons are to protect companies from each other, to protect consumers from unfair business practices, and to protect the interest of the society. Although business managers will always praise competition, in reality, most of the times they try to neutralize it when it's threatening. Therefore, it is important to protect companies from each other. As you may know from the previous video I've created, you can watch it here, after the Industrial Revolution, many industrial companies had a huge advantage and developed practices such as misleading and deceiving consumers through advertising, packaging, and pricing. Therefore, the need to protect the consumers. And finally, we all know that the development of all these companies comes at a price. They will always hurt the environment or the society. There is always a hard price to pay for these developments, and therefore the need to create legislation to protect the interest of society by forcing companies to take responsibility for their social costs of their production or products. And the second cause is the increased emphasis on ethics and socially responsible actions. And this trend actually developed because most of the times the rules and the laws we have at the moment are sometimes very hard to enforce, and many times the marketeers also got used to them and they know how to abuse them. Socially responsible behavior are the companies encouraged to their managers to look beyond what the regulatory system allows and simply do the right things. Because these issues usually involve conflicting interests, many companies develop policies, guidelines, and any other responsibility to complex social responsibility issues. Cause-related marketing to exercise their social responsibility and build more positive image, many companies link their image to worthwhile causes. T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, all of them joined this kind of trend that were worthwhile. For example, it is the trend "it can wait", and that was referring to texting and driving, actually to not texting and driving, meaning that the message, the texting, can wait. Another recent trend that became very popular for companies is the so-called corporate giving. So companies linking purchases of the company's products, of course, and services with the benefiting worthwhile charitable organizations. So they are giving for charity out of their own products which they buy from their own company. The cultural environment is the sixth macro force of the macro environment that we analyze, and before going in depth about it, let's see the definition of it. The cultural environment consists of preferences and behaviors. The environment shows trends towards new technology-enabled communication, a lessening trust of institutions, increasing patriotism, greater appreciation for nature, a changing in spiritualism, and the search for more meaningful and enduring vibes. This factor refers to how consumers consume, so what they think, what values they hold, and how they spend their money, because this is why marketeers are so interested in the cultural environment. Every person has values and beliefs about what is good, what is bad, what is useful, what is not useful, and depending on those filters, they do purchases. And marketeers want to know them and maybe modify them so you can buy from their company more. Remember that the marketing process is always about creating superior value for the customer in order to be able to capture the value back from customers. The cultural environment consists of institutions and other forces that affect a society's basic values, perceptions, preferences, and behaviors. People in a society hold many beliefs and values. They have core beliefs and values that have a high degree of persistence. I will give you an example. In a traditional culture, you will always have a very high importance of the value of freedom. People will always value hard work, getting married, and success, because these beliefs and values work in such a way that they influence the states and the behaviors of the people. Core beliefs and values are passed on from parents to children and reinforced by schools, businesses, religious institutions, and governments. Secondary beliefs and values are open to change. For example, believing in marriage. Most of the time, this is an example of a core belief. However, believing that you have to marry early in life is a secondary belief because you can change it. And finally, this is actually what the marketeers and the companies want. They want that through advertising and creating a company culture, they hope that they can change the secondary values you have to influence your purchasing behavior. And of course, there are just some changes that can happen in the secondary values of the culture, and these changes can happen only in the following instances. People's views of themselves refer to people varying in their emphasis on serving themselves or offering services to others. Some people seek personal pleasure and others seek self-realization through religion, recreation, or pursuit of careers or other life goals. You may have heard of concepts such as givers and takers, or joiners and sharers. Well, you have to know that this self-representation influences the way people use the products, the brands, the services, and it's also a mean of self-expression because people buy products to express how they feel and how they think. People's views of others refers to the people's attitudes towards and interactions with others shifts over time. A very popular concern of the marketeers, and not only, is the way we interact and communicate right now in the era of the internet, because this has shifted our concern of meeting face to face to talking in the era of internet, so by socializing apps, which is always influencing the values and the beliefs you have about interactions with other people. And to see the consequences of that, companies nowadays have to be on social media because they know that there is where the consumers and the future customers are, so they need to create and transpose their cultural values to the era of internet, to the social media page, and have a following to share the values with. People's views of organizations. People vary in their attitudes towards corporations, agencies, trade unions, universities, and other organizations. People are willing to work for major organizations and expect them in return to carry out society's work. Do you remember 2008-2009 when the bankers and the Wall Street bankers' greed and incompetence caused a huge recession worldwide? Well, you can imagine that the trust of the population in companies decreased a lot from that point. Another fact that changed is the belief of working to live or living to work. And because of this change, the organizations need to find new ways to attract employees and customers to their companies to gain their trust and their money as well. This was everything for this video. I hope you understood what the macro environment is, all and every individual actor of the macro environment. Remember that you can watch every actor separately. There are links below in the description for that. And if you want, you can watch an entire at-length video about the entire marketing environment. One more thing, if you have your own company or are an entrepreneur that wants to create its marketing strategy, the communication strategy, and overall a business plan for your company, check the links down in the description. I created a manual that will help you step by step with all the information, guidance, and instructions that you need to create a personalized marketing communication strategy for your company, and overall you will have a quality business plan that you can use to guide your company. There is a manual and a notebook as well. First you read the information and then you follow the step-by-step instructions. So in the end, the notebook becomes your very own personal business plan for the company. It is personalized, it works for any company, and you just need to go through the instructions. You have videos supporting you, and all that you have to do is to check the links down in the description. Also, another way you may thank me for creating these videos is by buying me a coffee. I run on a lot of coffee to create these videos. First of all, to do the research for the information, then to film, to edit the videos, and to post them for you to watch for free. So if you feel like you can buy me a coffee, I would highly appreciate it. Another way is, of course, to hit the like button, to subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down in the comment section of this video, because you know how YouTube is nowadays. If there is no engagement, there is no promotion. So if this video helped you, I would highly appreciate your support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the next video.